Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And in today's World of Warships video we have a compilation of highlights from 3 separate battles. And the theme of the first 2 is high explosive. I have a bit of a saying in World of Warships: sailing broadside onto a battleship, that's a paddling. A battleship firing a salvo of armour-piercing shells from its main battery guns, if it manages to get the flat broadside of your ship to shoot at with unangled armour, those armour-piercing shells are going to tear right through, wreck your citadel, and give you the bitch slapping that you so thoroughly deserve, sometimes deleting you in one salvo.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
Enter the Bismarck, German Tier 8 battleship armed with 8 15-inch guns. They're not the biggest guns available on a Tier 8 battleship, but they're still pretty formidable. Our Bismarck has just unleashed a salvo with his 2 forward 15-inch batteries at the broadside of the Gneisenau, which is a German Tier 7 battleship. The Gneisenau responding with armour piercing, as does the enemy Tirpitz, but none of their shots are particularly accurate. Why would you fire high explosive at the side of a battleship? Well, it's entirely possible that the Bismarck had the high explosive loaded, in which case you may as well fire it, or you're just not going to get to take a shot at all. And there are reasons why you might have high explosive loaded in a battleship. You might, for example, be facing the bows of an oncoming enemy battleship, in which case your armour piercing is likely to just ricochet off the bow armour or over-penetrate the superstructure. In those kind of circumstances, firing the high explosive is probably going to do more damage, and so it's a perfectly legitimate choice. So you can kind of understand the Bismarck firing that first high explosive salvo at the Gneisenau, despite the fact that he had the side of the ship to shoot at. You can also sort of understand why the Bismarck kept the high explosive loaded while he was waiting for the Bismarck to clear the gap in between the islands. The Gneisenau had just been fired upon by a Bismarck. You'd immediately expect the Gneisenau captain to start angling his ship to defend against the inevitable incoming armour-piercing salvo. And yet he didn't, and so our Bismarck captain must be kicking himself that he didn't load the armour-piercing for the second salvo. And he's got the broadside of the Gneisenau to shoot at again, and he's still firing high explosive. I think I'm starting to see a pattern emerging here. A couple of seconds later, broadside of a Tirpitz to shoot at. That's a paddling, unless you're firing high explosive. A couple of seconds later, the Tirpitz is still showing the flat side of his ship to a North Carolina and a Bismarck who is still firing high explosive. The one thing that battleship captains love doing more than firing armour piercing into the broadside of enemy battleships is firing armour piercing into the broadside of enemy cruisers, especially light cruisers like the Edinburgh over there, whose smokescreen has just dissipated. What is our fearless captain going to do? Switch to the armour-piercing and delete the Edinburgh? No, he's going to continue firing high explosive, this time at the broadside of the Gneisenau, because, well, that's worked out so well for him up until now, hasn't it? And he continues to ignore the cruiser and continues to watch his high explosive 15-inch shells shatter harmlessly off the belt armour of the Gneisenau. The Gneisenau cannot even turn. He's got torpedoes incoming. He has to stay on this course. You are never going to get a better target for your armour-piercing shells. But nope, high explosive again. That Edinburgh has now been sitting exposed in the open with an island at his back, broadside on in front of a fucking Bismarck, without taking any damage for so long that his smokescreen has just come off cooldown. But the Bismarck doesn't have time to delete cruisers. He's far too busy shattering 15-inch high explosive shells off the side of enemy battleships, who, by the way, are being taken out quite handily by battleship armour-piercing shells fired from the front, from the friendly Gneisenau and the friendly Tirpitz, and that just leaves the Edinburgh. You know, you have to wonder whether or not the Bismarck is doing this for a bet, because he seems to be thinking. He's managed to anticipate the torpedoes. He's used his hydroacoustic search to flush the Edinburgh out of his smokescreen. High explosive again. The friendly Gneisenau's got a fairly good shot at the Edinburgh here. I wonder what type of ammunition he's going to be firing. White Tracer, armor piercing, half of the Edinburgh's health just melts away. That wasn't even a citadel. Has our friend in the Bismarck taken the hint? We can but hope, because he has the opportunity to end the game. No, he's still fired high explosive. He must have been doing this for a bet. I mean, he clearly understands the threat posed by the Edinburgh's torpedoes, and he's taking steps to avoid getting torpedoed by the Edinburgh. But there's another way to avoid getting torpedoed by the Edinburgh. Fire your armor piercing at him! Here we go. Could this be it? Guns must be reloaded by now. Nope, still firing the high explosive. Oh, here comes some armor piercing shells from the Tirpitz. And oh look, the Edinburgh's dead. At the time I was recording this, I thought this is going to make a fantastic clip for why you have to be mad. All I have to do is just go onto the internet and find a really, really good facepalm picture. And that's when the game started trolling me. I am not making this up. I didn't even have to go to the trouble of opening up my browser and finding a facepalm graphic. The game provided one for me. It's almost as if it knows. So, that's how to not use high explosives in a battleship. I mentioned that there were a couple of occasions where using high explosives in a battleship was perfectly legitimate. One of them is if you're in the Conqueror. There are a choice of two guns on board the Conqueror. You can either have 419 or 457mm guns. There's a trade-off with the 457mm guns, however. You lose one gun per turret, so with the big guns you only get 8 guns on the Conqueror. With the smaller guns, and they're still 16-inch guns, you get 12 of the buggers. And with the smaller guns, they have a 48% chance of setting fire to any target that they hit with these high explosive shells. Now that chance of fire on target, if you equip the 457mm guns, goes up to 63%, but you still have to hit the target. And 63% is ridiculous, but one less gun per turret means you only have 8 63% chances of setting fire to any target that you hit with the high explosive shells. If you use the 16-inch guns, you get 12 48% chances of setting fire to a target. And since you're firing 12 of those 16-inch high explosive shells per salvo, there's more chance that they're going to hit, and well, 48% is pretty good. So you often see most people in Conquerors don't bother with the 457mm guns, they stay with the stock weapon configuration. And Happer Fodder, playing the Conqueror here for us today on the Sea of Fortune map, is going to show us why. And the enemy Grosser Kurfürst, who's going to be the victim of Happer Fodder's first high explosive salvo, is also going to demonstrate why it is a terrible idea in almost every circumstance imaginable to use your damage control ability to extinguish the first fire that gets set. In fact, it's shocking that somebody in a tier 10 German battleship hasn't figured this out by now. There we go. Fire set, fire immediately extinguished. You've got a Conqueror shooting at you. I believe there's a fairly good chance, in fact there are 48% chances that you're going to get set on fire again in the very, very near future. And now your damage control is on cooldown. One fire isn't going to kill you. What you want to be doing is waiting for the second or even the third fire and then getting the hell out. There it is. And it's just one fire, but, well, we're about ready to fire again, and the length of time it's taking at this range for the shots to get there. And I have to say, Happer Fodder's shooting is pretty accurate. There he goes. Can we get fire number 3? Well, 48% chances say it's entirely likely. And it does look pretty good. There they go. And he's burning again. And other than using his heal, there is nothing he can do about it. Let's not forget, by the way, it's not just the damage that the high explosive shells are doing. In fact, the shells themselves aren't doing that much damage. It's the fires that they're setting that's doing all the damage. And it's not just the fires that they're setting. These high explosive detonations on the upper deck and the superstructure are knocking out secondary gun batteries. And that's bad news for a German battleship in particular. As well as that, they're also knocking out anti-aircraft guns. And if you're in something like the Grosser Kurfürst, which is very, very long and very narrow, and so doesn't turn very quickly, Losing all of your anti-aircraft guns is a very, very bad thing to happen if you're playing in a match with an aircraft carrier on the enemy team, like this one. Meanwhile, the fires have now burned out on board the Grosser Kurfürst, but there are another 48% chances of setting fresh fires on the way. Luckily for the Grosser Kurfürst, that's the first salvo that Happer has fired this game that hasn't actually connected with the target, but he's firing at the Grosser Kurfürst at such long range that by the time he sees whether or not his shells have hit or missed, they're ready to go again. And so here are another 48% chances of setting fire to a target. That Grosser Kurfürst has already lost half of his health, and he has 105,000 health. And there's another 2 fires. He immediately uses his damage control. Okay, you can't judge him too harshly here. There were 2 fires. And can you guess what's going to happen next? There's a sort of grim inevitability to it all, really, isn't there? Shots out, shots on the way. Oh look, he's on fire again. Well, hang on, Jingles. Why were you laughing at the Bismarck for firing high explosive, but you're not laughing at Happer for firing nothing but high explosive? Well, you may have heard a certain phrase on this channel: if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. The Bismarck was stupid because he was firing at targets that were far too close. At the ranges where he was firing at enemy ships, 7 kilometers or less, the trajectory of his shells was flat. They weren't coming in from above the way they are here, and so they were hitting the belt armor and just shattering. Whereas every shot that Happer fires at these guys is at such long range that the shells are arcing right up into the air, and they're coming right down onto the superstructure, where high explosive shells are going to do the most damage. Almost none of them are shattering. He's getting penetrations with his high explosive shells. They're not penetrating the deck, they're not penetrating the belt, but they're penetrating and exploding inside the superstructure. And so he's doing anything up to 10,000 damage per salvo, and setting the occasional fire as well. The Bismarck wasn't doing that. The range was too short. Now, you are going to see circumstances during this battle where Happer should have been firing armor piercing, and yet he specifically stated in the email that accompanied this replay file that he just wanted to see what would happen if he fired nothing but high explosive. I've done it myself and done 200,000 damage in this ship. I've seen other people, I think it was Flamu, managed to do nearly 300,000 damage in the Conqueror firing nothing but high explosive. Oh look, there's another fire. Well, who saw that one coming? Also, what is that Yamato doing up ahead? No, not the enemy one, that one. He is YOLOing hard. Right into a pack of enemy battleships, cruisers and destroyers. Now, the Yamato's a good ship, but it's not that good. Is he perhaps fixating on one target and isn't aware of the danger that he's sailing into? No, he's an idiot. Oh, Jingles, you can't say that. Oh, I can. I just did. Look, I'll say it again. He's an idiot. He's off in search of windows to lick. He's fully aware of the danger that he's sailing into, and he's doing it deliberately. You see, he has a cunning plan. He actually explains it in chat after his inevitable demise, which means that these enemy ships now have nobody other than Happer to shoot at. So he's not too happy about his decision to go in and support the Yamato. Now, the Yamato's plan was to get in there amongst them so they can't carry out their plan. But what if their plan is to sink you? Now, here's one of those examples I was talking about where Happer would have done far, far better if he had been firing armor piercing. Enemy cruiser, Des Moines, Tier 10 American. But Happer quite clearly stated that he wanted to see what would happen if all he ever did was fire high explosive. What's not going to happen is that he's going to sink the Des Moines with this salvo. He could have if he'd been firing the armor piercing. 12 16-inch armor piercing shells are entirely capable of doing the damage required to finish that guy off, especially given the target that he's presenting. As it is, the high explosive is going to do some damage, set one fire, and then the Des Moines extinguishes the fire with his damage control ability. One fire. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I wonder if you can guess what's going to happen next. $162,000 damage done. Most of that from fires. And that number just keeps going up. A lot of the ships that Happer Fodder, in fact all of the ships that Happer Fodder has been farming damage on in this game, the Grosser Kurfürst and the Des Moines, for example, have all been doing the wrong thing. First and foremost, they've been extinguishing the fires with their damage control, and thereby putting it on cooldown the instant one fire was set. They've been sailing broadside on to the Conqueror, making it easy for him to hit them with its 12 16-inch guns. I don't know if you've noticed, but when the Conqueror fires, the dispersion of the shots tends to deviate a lot to the left and to the right. And so if you're sailing either directly towards or directly away from them, most of those shots are going to miss. But nobody's been doing that in this game. They have been making it easy for him. There's another fire. Oh, well, yeah. Who saw that one coming? Oh, this could be dangerous. Now, the Conqueror does have very, very good anti-aircraft guns as well. Just about everything about the Conqueror is very, very good. But, well, when you're under attack from 5 enemy squadrons, and there are no friendly fighters overhead, you're going to take some hits. Doesn't really matter too much when you're in the Conqueror, because you can lose half of your health, as Happer Fodder has just lost half of his health, and then it gets the most ridiculously overpowered heal as well. People say, oh, it's not overpowered because it's got the lowest health of any of the tier 10 battleships. Well, that's certainly true. But the heal is so good. Kind of makes up for it. Plus, it's got the lowest stealth rating, or rather the best stealth rating, and the lowest surface detection range of any of the tier 10 battleships. Wargaming acknowledged that the Conqueror was a little bit too good, and in the latest patch for World of Warships, they nerfed it. Oh really, Jingles? Do tell. I haven't been keeping up to date on the patch notes. What exactly was nerfed on the Conqueror? Did they nerf that ridiculous 63 or 48%, depending on which of the guns you have equipped, chance of fire on target with the high explosive shells? No. Did they nerf the ridiculously overpowered damage repair ability, which allows you to recover half of your health in seconds? No. No, they increased the surface detection range by about a kilometre. Because that's what everybody was complaining about, wasn't it? Just how hard the Conqueror was to spot. Yeah. No, they weren't. I somehow can't help but feel that Wargaming were kind of missing the point. Call me a wizened old cynic if you must, but I sincerely doubt that increasing Happer Fodder's surface detection range by 1 kilometre was ever going to make any difference to the 230,000 damage that he did in this game just by rolling his face all over his keyboard. Anyway, moving along swiftly. You often hear me say, if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. In fact, that's the second time I've said it in this video. And what better place to demonstrate the truth of that statement than on the Two Brothers map. This is the map that comes with its own built-in idiot magnet right in the middle. This is the map where all of the idiots on the team like to go and suicide right in the first 5 minutes of the match, by sailing straight up the middle of the suicide channel and then acting surprised when they emerge right in the middle of the entire enemy team. It's actually not a terribly bad idea if you wait a few minutes first. You have to give the enemy team time to get away from the mouth of the channel. Otherwise you come sailing out of the channel mouth and you just get broadside salvoed from left and right as all of the enemy team go, oh look, we caught one. Sometimes, however, it can be very, very amusing if all of your team agree that that's what they're going to do right at the start of the game. And that's almost what happens in this particular battle. This, in the Missouri, I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but I don't just want to call him Dave. Dave gets far too much coverage on this channel. Kivert? Is it something Dutch? I really don't know. Screw it, we're going to call him Dave. One of the Ismos on Dave's team, he's all for it. He really wants to YOLO down that channel so badly he can taste it. And he's trying to muster some enthusiasm for it amongst the teammates. And a couple of people are like, yeah, let's do it, but most people aren't. And it really doesn't work unless most of the team go for it. Hell, even if the entire team go for it, it's still a very, very risky tactic. Because as you emerge from that channel mouth on the far side of those two islands, you're basically broadside on to anybody looking at you. So you're going to take a lot of damage as you clear the mouth of the channel on the other side. So nobody, other than the Ismo who made the suggestion at the start of the game, is really that interested in going first. For very, very good reasons. But Dave, on the other hand, Dave doesn't have time for regrets. He doesn't sit around in front of the fire in his rocking chair worrying about what might have been. Dave lives for the moment. Live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse. That's Dave's motto. He's not bloody stupid, however. Particularly when there's an aircraft carrier in play. With aircraft around, it's next to impossible for anything, even a destroyer, to make it down that central channel undetected. So, Dave's going to go for it, but he's going to be clever about it. Aircraft have spotted him. They know he's coming. You have to anticipate that somebody is going to be sitting at the other end of that channel, armed with torpedoes. They have you targeted, they can see your course and speed, and they're just waiting to give you a face full of torpedoes as you round that corner up ahead. Where's everybody go? See, all mouth, no trousers. This is the sort of thing I'm talking about. Alright, Dave's going to have to do it himself. And here come the torpedo bombers. So what you do not want to be doing is going full speed around that corner. You want to be slowing down and watching out for any torpedoes. Now, the Missouri does have very good anti-aircraft guns, and he is able to deal quite easily with this initial attack from the enemy carrier. And Dave's slowing. And I was very surprised that there wasn't a destroyer or enemy cruiser on with torpedoes. A little reception committee waiting for him down at the far end of that channel. But Dave's in no rush to see what is down the far end of that channel. So he waits. Nobody else on the team keen to join him as yet. Oh, he's detected. There's something. Shots out. Oh, that's not going to end too well for the York, is it? No, not at all. The York was very lucky to survive. 6 16-inch guns fired straight into the side of his ship. See, this is the thing. When you do emerge from this channel, you're showing the side of your ship to everybody to the left and everybody to the right. But if you're in the channel with your nose pointed towards the channel mouth, anything that wants to brave the mouth of the channel and shoot at you while you're in it has to expose the side of their ship to your guns. Now, you are a sit and duck for dive bombers while you're in here, but if you're in a Missouri, they're going to have to send more than 2 squadrons at you in order to stand a chance of doing any damage. And yep, that's why Dave was reversing. The York had obviously fired torpedoes, but as long as you're on this side of that corner up ahead, any ship is going to have trouble hitting you with torpedoes. And the York has just very, very foolishly exposed himself to get a couple of 152mm high explosive shells off, and yep, he's paid for that one with his life. Dave's now going for it. The surface torpedo threat is neutralized. The York is dead. Once he gets around this corner, however, he's going to be vulnerable to torpedo attack from the enemy carrier as well. And are they thinking of joining him? Have they found their man pants yet? I guess we're going to find out. Now, speaking of surface torpedo threats at Kutuzov. Now, this thing is armed with torpedoes, but I don't think they have the 9-kilometer range necessary to be able to hit the Missouri. The Kutuzov torpedoes have an 8-kilometer range. But to fire those torpedoes, he's going to have to expose the front half of the side of his ship to Dave's 16-inch guns before he can actually clear the mouth of the channel there and fire those torpedoes. And he might not survive that. The York certainly didn't. The Kutuzov is in fact not quite that stupid. The same, however, cannot be said for the captain of this Ismo. There's the Kutuzov, nice and safe in the distance, opening up with a high explosive. The Ismo, however, 44,000 damage, sailing broadside onto a battleship when the battleship has armor-piercing loaded. That is a paddling. So the Izumo is like, what the hell just happened? I mean, where did all my health go? And Dave is setting off in hot pursuit. There's no sense in just sitting there while the Izumo, who is now hidden inside his own smokescreen, is pouring that 152mm high explosive into him, setting fires, chipping away at his health. He takes a shot at the Izumo. He didn't aim for the side of the ship because, well, he was not going to penetrate the belt armour with the Izumo angled. Put a shot into the superstructure, did some damage, but he's still being spotted by aircraft even though the Izumo is now out of line of sight. And so that Kutuzov is able to keep putting 152mm high explosive into him. And then Dave goes unspotted. At last. Of course, the Izumo, or rather the Kutuzov, still has a fairly good idea of where he is. So the shots are coming in, but they're no longer quite as accurate. He doesn't know exactly where that Kutuzov is, but if he stops and looks and aims, he can see where the shots are coming from, so what the hell, got nothing else to shoot at for the moment. Over penetration. But the Kutuzov continues to fire, and now he's firing completely blind. Dave, on the other hand, perilously low on health, and he's still burning, but it's only one fire, and he hasn't used his damage control. Instead, spotted by aircraft. Now the Kutuzov has a better target to shoot at. His anti-aircraft guns are working over the dive bombers. He's peering into the smoke there, backing off because he doesn't want to get within torpedo range of the Kutuzov. 8 kilometers, remember. And we're good. Fire out. There's the Kutuzov. Shots out. He's going to be able to heal again in 20 seconds. Nope, missed. Oh, not good. He's on very, very low health. There are torpedo bombers and fresh dive bombers coming in. And the Kutuzov is keeping that fire going. If he sets him on fire again, Dave could be in serious trouble. His heal is going to be back up in a couple of seconds. He's going to want to use it. And the Kutuzov is trying to make it into the cover of the island up ahead, but to do that, he's going to have to show a little bit of the side of the ship. Shots out. Oh, not enough. If Dave doesn't want that Kutuzov to get away, he's going to have to swing his ass out and get that rear turret firing. And oh, look, somebody's found their man pants. It's the Izumo on the team, whose idea it was to come down this central channel in the first place. Rear turret out, ready to fire, and just about in time for the forward turrets to reload as well. But the Kutuzov's almost made it. He's going to go undetected any second now. Enemy carrier trying to keep him spotted with his fighters, but all he's doing is losing fighters, and he's got the Kutuzov. He'll soon have those fighters shot down. Friendly Izumo is back up. He's burning again, however, and he's going to have to keep burning. No, he's going to be able to put the fire out very, very soon. Only one fire, but you're on such low health and you've got so long to wait before you can use your heal. And with the Kutuzov dead, there's nobody else spamming high explosive at him, so he's not going to immediately get set on fire again. Under those kind of circumstances, using the damage control to put one fire out is a good idea. This, however, is not a good idea. It's the enemy Izumo again. Apparently he didn't learn his lesson the first time. Some people learn the hard way, some people learn the easy way, some people just never learn. That guy had a choice of 2 targets to shoot at. One of them, the friendly Izumo, was on 46,000 health. Dave was on 14,000 health. Now, the enemy Izumo didn't have particularly good shots at either of them. But he had a better chance of sinking Dave than he ever had of sinking that friendly Izumo. So, of course, he went for the friendly Izumo. But then again, he did sail broadside on in front of multiple 16-inch guns, not once but twice. So we probably shouldn't be too surprised at his choice of target selection. Dave is pretty low on health here, and he's looking at that Baltimore over there, and he's undoubtedly thinking, I don't like that very much. Heavy cruiser, 203mm guns, high explosive shells. Battleship, low on health, spotted, big juicy target. The Izumo who's with him is saying, don't worry about the Baltimore, the team sweeping around from the east will take care of him, and they probably will. So Dave hedges his bets, and he follows the Izumo, the better to deal with this enemy aircraft attack, but he keeps his guns pointed in the direction of the Baltimore, just in case. Sure enough, the Baltimore cannot resist firing some 203mm high explosive at one of these two big, juicy, wounded battleships. But Dave's firing back, and the Baltimore didn't have an awful lot of choice but to sail broadside on, because he was running away from the rest of Dave's team coming around the eastern side of the map. But it's still satisfying when you do that amount of damage to a cruiser with an armour-piercing salvo in pretty much one shot. He did, however, at least manage to set that Ismo on fire, like everywhere. And that Ismo was forced to burn his damage control just now in order to control the fires and the flooding set by the air attacks from the enemy carrier, so he could be in some serious trouble. He's also being shot at by the Nagato, which also has 16-inch guns. This could be the end for the Ismo, who found his man pants a little too late, but he did at least find them. He's the only other person on Dave's team who did. Sorry, did I say there was a Nagato over there? I could have sworn there was a Nagato over there a moment ago. I guess I must just be getting old. 5 kills, Kraken unleashed. And that's pretty much it for this match, because Dave's team are just about to reach 1,000 points, and that is it for today's World of Warships video. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.